Okay. Hello. Thank you for your time today in participating in the Rapido monthly update for February 2025. My name is Megan Weldon. I am a product manager here at Ex Libris, part of Claravit. Today's session is covering the monthly update for the March release highlights. The session's agenda is first topics of and for the Rapido community, then the monthly highlights for the March release, followed by your questions today. Please provide your questions via the chat functionality that you have available. Additionally, I will provide my email at the end of the session for us to continue conversations that maybe we can't complete via the chat and questions time today. Okay. First off, our wonderful Rapido community, a few highlights to share with all of you to speak to the news going on in our Rapido community. Right. We're already seeing libraries complete their implementation projects this year, already early in the 2025 year. We have 3 libraries who've completed their implementations. We saw 155 libraries at the start of the year as live with Rapido, and we anticipate having 275 libraries live by the end of 2025 based on what's already scheduled. So it's really exciting to see this community growing and to see that there will be a lot of growth throughout this year in new Rapido libraries and in new partners for our libraries. Thinking about the growth and the partnerships within our community really connects to this next slide here. You may have seen the announcement that came out in January about Claravit partnering with San Diego Circuit to create a new consortial borrowing experience. This is a wonderful partnership working with these libraries who have great connections and partnerships with one another already. This partnership with our Rapido team expands Rapido to really support libraries, connecting between academic libraries as well as public libraries and connections with libraries in more diverse LMSs. So if you're familiar, Rapido started first out as a tool for libraries who are first using Alma. It's also now in use by libraries who are using Rapido on top of Sierra and Folio, and these partnerships, like with the Circuit libraries, brings Rapido to libraries using other solutions as well. So it really expands the scope and broadens the community for the Rapido community. Another exciting partnership that news came out at the end of last month is with the British Library with their choice to implement Alma, Primo, and Rapido. It's another exciting library partnership that we look forward to their growth and participation in the Rapido community. Okay, additional opportunities to connect with our community are coming up in the form of some conferences. You'll be able to connect with members of the Rapido team at the upcoming Skelkapalooza on March 5th in Los Angeles, California. I'll be attending, and please reach out if you want to touch base in person. Very excited to connect with the library community at Skelkapalooza. And another opportunity for us to connect in person together is at the IUG conference happening in March. Myself, Mike Richens, and Hope Harley from the Rapido team will be in attendance. Please reach out if you would like to connect in person. We're excited to see our libraries, library colleagues and partners at these events. Another upcoming event that may or may not be on your radar already is the Igloo Conference. I saw that they have put out the call for proposals, and that call for proposals is open according to their update at this point until April 6th of this year, 2025. So if you are interested in attending Igloo or sharing your story, your library story with using Rapido solution as a solution, I really encourage you to participate via the call for proposals or otherwise connecting with the community at this great conference event. Getting into developments and development highlights for the March release. Each of these three developments that I'm going to speak to build on existing developments that you've seen come into your environments over maybe the last 12, 13 months or so. So I'll acknowledge the new developments, but then also give you context how they may fit into the broader functionality or workflows that you have in your environments today. The first two of these three upcoming developments in the March release are related to analytics. You'll find with the March release that you have two new out-of-the-box reports available to you. So if you have analytics roles, going into analytics, catalog, shared folders, and then Rapido, and in the reports folder, there'll be two new reports available to you. One being titled the Resource Sharing Partner Invoices, and the other report being Resource Sharing Loss Damage Partner Invoices. So both of these new reports address invoice functionalities in Rapido, but there are two different invoice functionalities that I will speak to today to give you context of when you might use these reports or why they might be relevant to your institution. So first off, the invoice report titled Resource Sharing Partner Invoices. This report may be relevant to institutions who are using invoice functionality to charge partners for requests. So what might that look like at your library, or how might libraries be using that today? It's based on some functionality that we've been building on since at least November 2023, when we first saw the functionality to designate shipping cost lender rules. So these may be configured at your library if you're working with partners beyond the pods and you're working with those partners at cost. Maybe you are charging those partners a shipping cost fee, a base fee, copyright fee, a service level fee, or page overage fees. You have flexibility there with what you're doing. These partners may be peer-to-peer partners, they may be email partners, they may be partners created via your self-registration functionality that you may have enabled at your institution. You can have these shipping cost lender rules in place to define when those charges would be applied to your partner. Again, this is currently relevant for beyond the pod functionality if you're working with additional partners. If you're working with this functionality, you may be familiar with the request cost field section within your resource sharing requests. In this request cost section, you'll see the various values that were also represented in the invoice report, such as the invoice printed status, yes or no, the invoice sent date, the invoice number, whether or not the invoice was paid. So those are values that you can see and edit in the request itself, and they're values that are populated in that invoice report. Additionally, you can engage with facets related to this functionality. You can see here on the left, invoice paid, invoice printed, yes, no. So you can use the facets to navigate finding those requests where the invoice has been generated or sent or not via the yes or no printed value, and whether or not your partners have paid those invoices, yes or no. And again, those are values that show in your report. So if you're working with the shipping cost functionality and these request costs for your partner, you'll be sending those partner invoices, and you can do that either manually from the individual request or from the bulk action of requests. Additionally, as this next slide speaks to, there is a job that you can have running to be sending those invoices automatically to the partners. It is by default an inactive job, but it can be set to active at whatever time interval is relevant to your library to be sending out those invoices via email to those partners. Again, that partner is sent an email, and this is the out of the box, what that looks like. Of course, you can customize your letters as you wish. The different fields are already in that letter, so you can see that in this example, the external identifier, the title, and the different fee types for that partner. Again, this invoice functionality that we just reviewed is relevant to that new report, the Resource Sharing Partner Invoices report. If you open that report in your analytics, you'll see that first it prompts you to designate the invoice sent date. And then after you've populated that field, it will open up with the different values of the internal ID, the printed yes, the partner name, the sent date, invoice number, and whether or not the invoice has been paid. The second report that was added with the March release is the Resource Sharing Loss Damage Partner Invoices report in Analytics. Again, in that same Analytics folder. If you have the Analytics roles, you'll find this in the Catalog, Shared Folder, Rapido Reports. Very similar to the last report. The report prompts you to select the sent dates. It has the same or similar fields, just with the lost damaged invoice fields as opposed to just the invoice fields, because this report is more relevant to your invoicing of partners for lost and damaged items. So next slides will acknowledge what those workflows might look like. So thinking about lost damaged items, of course, this is not something that is going to be a workflow for every request. It is more so the minority of requests, and it may or may not be relevant to your library. But thinking about what is available to you, should you be working with partners that have lost, or you have lost or damaged their items, there are some workflow aspects to know about and consider in the way that you handle these requests. So just kind of an overview of what actions are available to you from the borrowing perspective. So if you are in the context of being the borrower in this scenario and are working with a partner whose items you have lost or damaged, know that you can receive the overdue letters from the lender should the item go overdue and that before it is lost. Additionally, if you know that you have lost the partner's item, you have the lost action available to you. And if you select the lost action, you will be updating the request status to lost communicated. As a borrower, you can receive lost and damaged invoices from your lender partner. You can also send overdue notices and lost fees and fee letters to your end users, to your library patrons. And within the borrowing, you can indicate if you've paid the lost fees and update the status to lost and fee paid. So there are some letters that can be sent to your end users, letters that you can receive from your lending partners, and actions and status updates within your request itself. So the three kind of areas of this workflow from the borrower's perspective. From the lender's perspective, there are some different workflow actions available to them too in engaging in items or workflows that have been lost or damaged. So you can find the items declared lost by your borrowing partner. You will do this by finding items at the lost status, and you can see the note that they sent to you. You can also perform the lost action on your end, which allows you to send a message to the partner and apply the fee amount. This updates the request status to the lost and fee communicated status. The lender can also send the lost damage invoice. On the next couple slides, I will show you where that action lives, what that looks like. You can also update the request status to completed after the invoice is paid. And additionally, if you are working with connecting your Rapido environment to an external system for fee management, the different lost and damaged invoice values are available via APIs as API fields for you to work in that way. What's new with the March release in the context of this workflow is the report that's available to you in analytics on these invoiced requests. So for items that have been lost or damaged, you have those workflow actions that are acknowledged in the previous slide. To actually send the lost damage invoice, you can do it from an individual request within your actions menu, or if you've selected multiple requests, you have the bulk action available to send the lost damage invoice. And here we can see this request is available for sending the lost damaged invoice. It's an available action to us because our shipping date is populated and because the lost damaged item fee is populated. So if you are unable to send the lost damaged invoice, it may be because the item was never updated to shipped or the fee value was not populated. Once you send that lost damaged invoice, your partner will receive the letter that you have enabled, the partner loss damage invoice letter. Like any of your letters, you can customize how that reads. Additionally, you can track which partners or view which partners you've sent invoices to on the individual partner itself. Within Fulfillment Resource Sharing Partners, you'll find there's an Attachments tab, and you can see various invoices you may have sent to them through your interactions together. Then looking in analytics, you have the information available regarding your invoiced requests as well. So this part is what's new to you in the March release in exploring and using the loss damage workflows in your environments. Okay, moving from the new reports that are available to you and the workflows that are available to you around those reports within your environments is the next update for the March release, and that is related to the ebook functionality. And like these two new releases, I'm also going to speak to holistically what this ebook functionality looks like that was made available to you in the January release. So as you may be familiar, the ebook functionality was made available to you in the January release after testing with some partners live with the ebook functionality earlier this last fall. And from working with those partners, we got some great feedback, and that feedback was added to the roadmap to continue to develop the end-to-end functionality of ebooks that's already available to you today. And that feedback that we've received from the community was that for the DRM-free items, they don't expect those items to need a loan period. So with the initial rollout of the ebook end-to-end functionality with the January release, those ebook pods had a loan period, but after consulting with these libraries, the March release development is that ebook pods can exist without a loan period. So the libraries who are already a part of that initial ebook pod have been contacted and updated to know that with the March release, that 30-day loan period that they assigned to the pod will be updated. As they indicated, they did not want that pod to have a loan period, and thus it will not. So if you have are already in that ebook pod or had questions about it, the terms will be updated so that there is not a 30-day loan period, but instead no longer a loan period value. And that's because your end user is getting that whole ebook as a DRM-free item, and they are not having to return that. So there's there will not be a loan period for them to abide by or inform them. So let's look at the holistic ebook workflow and configurations that this new development sits within. So familiar discovery experience, of course, it may be customized depending on what your library has done there, but your end user can search. Once they've found their item, they will see the ebook offer. And in this example, we have the ebook pod is working with a 24-hour delivery period and is working with a cost, but your ebook pod that the community community created for the DRM Free International has different terms. There's not a cost involved in that one. Just bear with us here for this example. So they'll see the terms of the pod at the point of offer. They also see that on the form that opens. The request is submitted and the borrowing staff can view that request. They can see the ebook indicator value is yes, so they know it's an ebook request. They can see the pod information. This pod example that we have here that is named ebook pod WST, no loan period, and the delivery time and the other pod terms are there. From the lender's perspective, maybe they've created a set based on the relevant statuses that need to be processed, in addition to the ebook indicator value of yes. So they're navigating to that ebook lending set. Within that set, they're seeing their ebook request to process. And again, they can also see that the ebook indicator value is yes. To fill that request, they may go to the download and deliver action, or they may go to the ship digitally action. Like other digital requests, they can supply a URL to fulfill their request, or they can supply a PDF to fill that request. And you can see those options on this screen here. Once they fill that request, because there is no loan period and there isn't any action required of the borrowing team, that request is updated to complete it. To begin working with the ebook resource sharing via Rapido at your library, there are a few configurations that you may want to know about. Okay, those configurations, first from the lending perspective, are defining your lendable items, attaching those participating items to the pod that you've joined, and then additionally, you can also create sets that help you navigate those workflows, but this is entirely optional depending on how you want to work. So the first step for joining an ebook pod is defining an electronic portfolio that is inclusive of those lendable items. So in this case, where we already have the DRM-free international pod available, the library would be creating an electronic portfolio set inclusive of some DRM-free titles or all of their DRM-free titles, however they approach this, that are lendable to this pod. When they save that set of electronic portfolios, they update the status to active and define the private status to be no. Then within their Rapido configurations here, we've gone to our configuration, members, edit. There's the digital item lending policies tab that became visible in your environments with the January release. Here you select the add participating ebooks action. Once selected, it'll open up a drop-down list for you to choose from your different electronic portfolios that you have defined so that you can select the one that you defined for this particular pod and add it. Once it is added, it will show as visible under your participating items for the ebooks. Then down below, you'll see your pods that you're participating in, and you can attach that participating item to that pod. So like any of your pods that you're lending to, you can define different participating items for those pods. If in the future you're participating in multiple different ebook pods, you can have different defined participating items attached to those different pods. But for the first pod that's a community created today, it would be the DRM-free items for that international partners. Okay, so that is really the required aspect for the lending perspective of the ebook pod participation or ebook pod function or ebook functionality in Rapido. Additionally, like our previously acknowledged, if you want to modify your sets to either exclude ebooks from your other sets and create a new ebook set based on the ebook indicator, yes, you can create a new set or modify your existing sets however you want to navigate that. Then there are configurations for the borrowing functionality of the ebook requests. Okay. The first one is ordering your pods based on pod priority order. There is also a job to enable for ebook sharing, and then there are some optional workflow considerations that you can implement to personalize your borrowing experience and for the borrowing team. So to order the pods, we're going into our borrowing policies tab, which is familiar to us by the means of going into the configuration, resource sharing members, and then the borrowing policies tab. Here you'll see the pods that you're participating in, and you can drag and drop them based on your priority of order of use. So in this example here, this library's example ebook pod is listed as their third priority of use pod partnership. Then if we're working with ebooks with a loan period, it is important to have this job enabled. So it can be one that you enable as a part of your initial getting ready, getting sorted with doing ebook sharing in Rapido. The job is set to inactive by default, and then you can go into the jobs and activate it. This job is relevant for completing requests where you are working with a pod that has a loan period for the ebooks. Then some considerations that you can make for customizing your workflows. There are ebook-based parameters available for your mediation rules, those being whether or not it's an ebook format and whether or not the request format changed throughout the request's life cycle. So maybe your end user discovered for the offer available as an ebook, but then the partners in the pod could not fill that, and it then fell to your next pod priority, which was physical. Perhaps your library wants to mediate those requests, or even if the order of operations were different and the request format went from physical to ebook, you can be mediating those requests should you choose to. Another consideration for the ebook workflows for borrowing is that you may have copyright rules in place in regards to the total copyright work percentage parameter. Your ebook request will not trigger this copyright rule. And like we saw for lending, you can use the ebook indicator value in creating your borrowing sets for that workflow as well. Okay, just a few more configurations to consider in regards to the ebook in Rapido for our end users. The primary one being the display logic rules, and then additionally, you can make modifications to labels, request forms, or letters should you choose to customize those things in your environments for your end users. So first off, if you've joined the ebook pod, you can engage with modifying the display logic rules for your end users. Here, our library is choosing to hide the Rapido ebook offer for the alumni user group. Your display logic rules will look different depending on your library's preferences. Additionally, you can choose to customize your Rapido tiles. You may have done this already for your chapter requests or for your physical requests. Likewise, there are values, individual values you can use to change what the labels for the ebook offers. This is not a necessary step of the configuration process, but it is a personalization that you can make within the Rapido labels. Additionally, you can make modifications to the ebook request form. This is the form that opens up once your user has selected the tile and that Rapido offer for ebooks. You'll see that the alternate pickup location is on that form, so that if your end user is requesting on an ebook offer, but it ends up going to a physical pod due to lack of fulfillment from the ebook pod, your end user is designating where they will be picking up that physical item should that occur. Additionally, the note that shows up at the top of your form, you can customize that for the ebook form should you want to include a different message to your end users on that the form that opens up via the ebook tile offers. Whenever we think of the end user experience, we think about the communication that our end users are receiving. Um, when we're looking at the ebook workflow in Rapido, that primary communication comes via the document delivery notification letter. So if you want to customize that letter for the ebooks, you can. There were additional fields added to those out of the box letters. So if your library has customized this letter at your library, our changes will not reflect in your letter, but you can find the fields within the Rapido letters configuration documentation to add those terms specific to the ebook pods or to your letters if you wish. Additionally, you may be using the change in terms letter at your library. With the ebook functionality in January, new fields were added to those letters that were out of the box. If you've customized this letter and you want to add those fields, you can grab that from the documentation and put that into your letters. So last topic here for ebooks, and then I'll move to thinking about your questions and addressing any questions you're putting into the chat today. Is a few of the roadmap items that came from the conversations with our community partners who tested the end-to-end functionality. So that first one came from the community with the DRM free not requiring a due date. That's completed and it will be a part of this March release. Additional items of feedback that came from the community is the end user being able to choose between an ebook or physical offer on all in the tiles. Today that their options available to them are presented based on your pod priority order. Uh, we know that libraries want to support end users being able to make this choice, so that is a development that has been added to the roadmap here. Additionally, the end users are only able to submit ebook requests based on the offers that they see, and you may want to allow them to submit requests via the blank forms. Similarly, those staff being able to submit ebook requests by creating those requests on behalf of the end users is something that is planned as well. Today, again, those requests come in only by the tiles. Additional analytics reports specific to ebooks are also planned, and the ebook ILO policy being visible on the download and deliver view is another development. So this next slide here is just giving you my email address should you want to connect about Rapido at your library. Next, I'm going to grab some of the links that are related to topics from today's session. I will put them into the chat and look to the chat to see if you had any questions today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen to make that a bit easier to navigate here. Questions, please use this time to put them into the chat. And I'm going to grab the different links here that are relevant to the conversation today. Okay. In the chat, you should now see, let's see, did that go through? Yes, okay. In the chat, you should now see a couple different links that may be relevant to you. So the first one is if you want to have your library added to any pods, maybe the ebook pod or additional pods that you're not yet participating in, you can use that form. That form is also linked to the pods page. The following link is to register for additional monthly webinars. So we have these webinars scheduled through June, and I'll be adding more for the rest of the year to continue to cover the monthly highlights. And then there is the Rapido listserv. If you're not yet on that listserv, it's a great resource by the community for the community to connect on their topics, questions, etc., related to Rapido. And then the release notes link there too to review the monthly release highlights as well. All right, I am not seeing any questions in the chat today or in the Q&A. Thank you for your time in today's monthly update. Please contact me if you have additional questions beyond today. Take care.